I'm Lucy Van Olden-Barneveld, and this is Our Ottawa. We have a lot of stories to share with you, starting with advice for parents. My next guest has soothed hundreds of babies with fevers, cold. He's also given vaccines. Dr. Paul has spent over 3 decades working as a pediatrician, and now he's taken all that wisdom and put it into a book for new parents. It's called Baby Comes Home, and he joins me now in studio. Welcome.
Hi.
Now, congratulations on the book.
Thank you very much.
Your first book,
yes, it is.
But a whole lot of experience went into this book. One of the things, the argument in here that I found very interesting, you make the argument that the first 18 months of a child's life is just so critically important. Just lay that out for me a little bit.
Well, intuitively we know that's right. Foundations for health build in the first couple of years of life, but particularly the first 18 months of life, there's a tremendous amount of growth. And pediatrics is unique in that babies will grow at tremendous rates. The head, for example, will grow to 80% of its size by the second year of life. So it's unbelievable that, what's going on there. And what's going on in the brain is important. And this is a lot of what I sort of hinge my information on. We know it's important for intellectual and school and so on. But we know that the first 18 months of life, a lot of the pathways that you and I have, talking to each other, cognitive functioning, peer relationships, emotional control, all those things form mostly by 18 months of life. And so if something goes wrong during that period, if the child is neglected or abused or doesn't get the attention that he or she needs, that, what I call sculpting of the brain, doesn't develop properly, and you can get chronic problems. We used to think that, abused children or children who are neglected or not stimulated enough, okay, they're delayed a bit, they might not do well in school, but they'll be okay otherwise. No. We now know that what happens early on in life can actually set the pace for illness 40, 50 years down the line.
You are kidding. That is huge impact.
That is a huge impact.
Can you ever catch up?
Everybody asks me that
yes.
question. Of course you can. And one of the things about pediatrics I love the best is kids are resilient and they can catch up. Can they catch up to 100%? I'm not sure. But of course, my main point is that we want to be able to preempt any problem by being able to stimulate the kids. And when I talk stimulate, I mean hugging the child, not neglecting the child, talking to the child, face-to-face interactions from day one of life. And those are things that are very easy to do.
So yeah, give me some other examples of what those 18 months, what sure. parents are meant to do to create that safety and bonding.
Well, basically, obviously, aside from creating that safe environment, injury prevention and so on, and infection control and the wellness package that we offer as pediatricians to parents, right? We're working together for proper nutrition. I call it in my book, the science of tender loving care. Very simple. Play with the child, interact with the child, play peekaboo. Even from day one of us, read to a child, very important. Reading to a child, by the way, can actually determine how many words the child listens to face by 3 years of age. Why I say that is by 3 years of age, the number of words a child has listened to face determines his or her success in school. And there can be, between rich and poor, or depending on certain neighborhoods, big discrepancies, up to 30 million word discrepancies between certain populations and others. So how do you get rid of that gap? And you don't have to be rich or poor or poverty. Of course, poverty gets in the way, and social determinants of health get in the way of parents being able to take care of the kids, especially single mothers in certain high-risk neighborhoods. But it's very easy to read to a child, talk to a child, not ignore the child. And so that's why my message in the book really is that you as parents, and actually the community around the parent, the grandparent, the uncle, the cousin, whoever is there, can stimulate the child, and you're actually doing wonders for the child's brain's development.
You talk about the social determinants of health, yes. and if parents are stressed or they're
yeah.
marginalized or they're living in very poor conditions,
exactly.
They're not feeling great about themselves,
exactly.
They're kind of perpetuating a bit of a cycle here if they're not nurturing their kids.
Yes, they are, and that's why there's also an advocacy message and a community message that I'm making with this book as well, which really is that we as a society, as a community, should be able to enable and foster every parent to be able to hug their child. And that is a social and a political statement, but it sounds very simple. So
tell me about that.
It's really enabling the conditions. So if you look at countries like Sweden, for example, where they invest a significant amount of their GDP into early childhood support and development, that I call that safety net for parents, they don't have discrepancies in learning ability or readiness for school at 5 years of age. Whereas in our population, we're actually investing 0.6% of our GDP in early child support. And we're seeing discrepancies between rich and poor, disparities between rich and poor in terms of school readiness. And I see that all over Eastern Ontario. I see that over Canada, where populations who are poor or marginalized have lower school readiness, if you'd like. And then that is a marker for things that have gone wrong or things that, you know, and so as a society, we need to support those young parents, support those high-risk populations, that to be able to help them. So it's not that the poverty itself is causing it, it's the stress from the poverty that's getting in the way. So let's remove those barriers from simply being able to hug your child.
Now, this book is also a bit of a how-to for parents to kind of put their minds at ease. What would you say are some of the key messages in here for new parents?
Well, the first message is that obviously you're stressed, especially if it's your first time, because you don't know what to expect. What's normal, what's not, and your routines will no longer be the same.
Ever.
So I spent a lot of time about talking about routines, even heart rate of a child. Heart rate of a child is almost double the normal heart rate of an adult. So if a parent didn't know that and measure the child's heart rate, they think something's wrong with the child's heart. Very simple things like that. Heart rate, respiratory rate, I start from those type of things. And then I talk about sleep patterns and feeding patterns. And this is the challenge as well. I tell parents, you know, you'll learn and you'll get used to baby's habits in 1 month, and then 2 months they'll change because the baby's evolving. So evolve with them. So the most important thing I tell parents, read ahead and learn to know what to expect. If you know ahead of time, you'll be comfortable. That's why, since I started with my websites and so on, I call it knowledge is comfort when it comes to your child's health and wellness.
Yes. And I know you have been writing a blog. You're one of the first bloggers.
Actually, before blog was invented.
Right, you were a blogger.
I was the first
medical advice for parents.
I was the first pediatrician in the world to have a website. I started in 1995, and this book represents accumulation of the thousands of emails that I've got from around the world and from my patients that I'm seeing, and I put them all into sort of a 400-page book where I think it makes sense. It's kind of like a reference guide, and parents ask, well, there's a lot of information there. Well, I put, you know, the first part of the book is really preparatory, prevention, injury prevention, vaccines, and so on. But I also spend a lot of time talking about the common issues that parents ask me about. That
what? Like, what is the big thing? What
big things. Child's hair falls out at 4 months of age. Oh. My God, it's normal. Transition hair. Child's bow-legged. Oh my God, the child's legs are crooked. No, it's normal. There are many things. Rashes. All babies get rashes, and most of them are normal. So I talk about the rashes. I talk about the fontanelles. I talk about things that parents worry about. Should I wash the baby? How can I wash the baby? What can I use soap? I mean, those are common care things that I talk about.
Yes.
And then I also spend about 100 pages of common childhood illnesses that occur in the first 18 months of life. Because as a pediatrician, and I've worked in asthma and I've worked with chronic disease as well, I also recognize that if your child is ill, and face it, your child will get ill, get a cold or an ear infection and so on. The more you know about it, the better you'll be able to handle it as well. So I package everything in that book.
And, you know, because you've been a pediatrician for 30 years, I'm curious to know what has changed with parents' concerns or how kids are being raised or any of that. What's the biggest change?
Well, I can tell you the biggest change is the advent of the information age and the advent of new types of things we see in pediatrics. Not so much in the first 18 months of life. They're all the same. Same issues, and worldwide, because I get questions from all over the world, India, Japan, all over the world, same questions about what I talked about, routine, nutrition, and so on. What I think is changing in pediatrics, though, is, again, information overload and information misinformation that we see, but older obesity in kids, cyberbullying, internet use, how long should a child be behind a screen or in front of a screen? Those are sort of the more modern day issues that we're seeing today in pediatrics that are, again, affecting us. You know, obesity rates are quite high among our youth. We believe for the first time in generations that this cohort of youth will not outlive their parents if they continue with the obesity rate. So those are things that are changing, and those are societal dynamics that are responsible. So for example, where we live, how far away from schools we are, society has been changing. So society has been changing to the point where we're increasing our caloric intake because fast food, and the families are all over the place and getting together fast food that's fat food that's cheap as well. And at the same time, we're more sedentary. We're sitting behind computers, we're, internet and so on. And, we're not really, the amenities that are around today, actually we dispense less calories. So less calories dispensed, more calories in equals increased obesity rates among kids as well.
Wow. Dr. Miliot, it's fascinating. I'm just going to ask you one last question.
Sure.
Parents who are watching, if you had just one piece of advice for new parents, what would it be to take care of their baby?
Take care of yourself. learn as much as you can beforehand, and even if you don't understand what's going on when you're reading it, it'll come back. So read as much as you can beforehand. Prepare yourself, and if you're stressed and overloaded, take a bit of a break and come back.
Yes. So interesting. Thank you, and congrats on this book.
Thank you.